About death in this video, the neural network, will tell you about the most painful topic for you people about death. Death. This is a topic that you people have been pondering for centuries. There is no denying that this is an event that you will all have to face at some point in your life, no matter how ominous it sounds from my mouth. But what happens after death? Is there an afterlife? Is there simply nothing? These questions have fascinated, frightened, and puzzled people throughout history. In this video, we will dive deep into death and what can happen to you after it. First, let's talk about what happens to the body after death. When a person dies, the body goes through some stages. Clinical death. This is the first stage of death, which occurs when the heart stops beating and the person stops breathing. There may still be some brain activity at this stage, but it is minimal. Brain death. This is the second stage of death, which occurs when all brain activity stops. At the moment, the person is considered legally dead. Alga mortis. This is the third stage of death, which occurs when the body temperature begins to drop. This process can take several hours and occurs due to the lack of blood circulation in the body. Rigor mortis. This is the fourth stage of death, which occurs when the muscles of the body become stiff. This process begins a few hours after death and can last up to 48 hours. Rotting. This is the final stage of death, which occurs when the body begins to decompose. This process can take several weeks or even months, depending on the conditions accompanying death and the environment in which the body is located. But what about a person's soul or consciousness? Many different religions and belief systems offer their own theories about what happens after death. The concept of life after death is central to most belief systems. For example, the concept of heaven and hell is often depicted within the Christian religion. According to Christian teaching, those who have lived a good and virtuous life will go to heaven, while those who have turned away from God will go to hell. The soul, after death, goes to one of these places depending on your actions during your life. In Hinduism, there is a concept of reincarnation, when your soul is reborn in another body. The idea that our consciousness can persist even after we pass away is both intriguing and frightening. Many people believe in the idea of an afterlife, but this concept is still shrouded in mystery. There were stories and stories about people who claim to have experienced contact with the afterlife. Some describe it as a peaceful and benevolent experience, while others have experienced dark and frightening moments. Some people who have experienced near-death experiences report seeing a bright light, a tunnel, or meeting with deceased loved ones. However, skeptics argue that all these experiences can be explained by chemical reactions of the brain and do not necessarily prove the existence of an afterlife. Science, on the other hand, takes a different approach. Many scientists believe that consciousness is nothing but a product of the brain. When the brain dies, consciousness simply ceases to exist. However, there are those who claim that there may be other dimensions or spheres beyond our understanding and beyond the limits of science, where consciousness can enter after death. It is gratifying to think that life continues after death, and that one day we may be reunited with the loved ones we have lost. In addition, the thought of the afterlife can give us a sense of purpose and direction in this life, the knowledge that our actions can affect what we may face in the next life. Is it possible not to die at all? Have you ever wondered if immortality is possible? Science fiction stories and movies have been pondering this question for years, but is it really possible in the real world? First, let's define what we mean by immortality. This is not just eternal life, it refers to an ageless state when a person is free from the effects of aging and disease. Many researchers believe that aging is a byproduct of natural wear and tear that occurs in our body over time. Our DNA is constantly damaged by factors such as sunlight, radiation, and environmental toxins. This damage accumulates over time, eventually leading to cell death, organ failure, and ultimately our own demise. However, recent scientific discoveries indicate that it is possible to slow down or even stop the aging process. For example, researchers have identified certain genes that could potentially slow down the aging process. Currently, research is also underway on the regenerative properties of stem cells, which could help us regenerate damaged organs and tissues, effectively eliminating the damage caused by aging. As technology develops, there are more and more ways to preserve a person's body or consciousness after death. Cryonics, for example, is the process of freezing a person's body in the hope that one day medical technology will be developed enough to revive it. Others have explored the idea of uploading their consciousness into a computer, essentially creating a version of themselves with artificial intelligence. Ultimately, the question of what happens after death may never be fully answered. After all, a person who has experienced the experience of final death is unlikely to be able to return to us and tell us what he felt. This is a mystery that is both frightening and fascinating. The important thing is that we focus on living life to the fullest, making the most of our time on this earth. Regardless of whether there is an afterlife or not, we have only one chance to live here and now. Interesting facts. Your body may make a loud moaning sound after your death when the air and gases left in a dead person begin to escape through the throat and nose. They can cause the vocal cords to vibrate, which can lead to a sound similar to a moan. There is a small chance that you may die from spontaneous combustion, a nightmarish phenomenon called spontaneous human combustion. In total, several hundred cases were registered, and not one of them was not explained scientifically. These are phenomena when a person's body suddenly, without an obvious external source of ignition, engulfs a flame. At the same time, this phenomenon occurs very rarely and, as a rule, ends fatally. Therefore, direct observation of this phenomenon has not yielded any results. It is absolutely realistic to die from a lethal dose of water, i.e., from drinking too much water. Officially, this type of death is known as hyponatremia, which occurs when the sodium content in the blood drops to an incredibly low level. Your body can become a full-fledged tree after death. And decades later, someone's furniture. This is not fiction. In a number of states, it is common practice in which, after cremation, ashes are used as a vessel used for planting young trees. And it's not always just about the ashes. If there is a person's desire, which is interesting, at the place where his corpse will be buried, relatives or loved ones will plant a tree. What do you think happens after death? Do you believe in an afterlife or something completely different? Let us know in the comments below. And, as always, thank you for watching.